Oh no.
Yep, we are here. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good evening. If you are dialing in from the States, just taking a little bit of time there to get things underway with uh, technology. We always love that. Most of you in the group will know me. If you're new around here, I'm Karen, the Plant Power Coach, and this is my plant-based weight loss support group. But I bring you all sorts of interviews and interesting people as well. It's not always just about weight loss, and I wanted to bring you an incredible story today from Sarah, who I have known for, gosh, Sarah, it's probably almost 4 years, 3.5 years, or something like that now. Um, and Sarah was my business coach actually for about 15 months. She's been through an incredible story. Once declared, I guess, legally mentally disabled, she had bipolar and borderline personality disorder, and her psych once told her that she would probably need to get a disability pension and never work. But that wasn't what she wanted to be doing for the rest of her life. She had dreams and goals, and I'm going to get her to explain her story today. And I thought this would be fairly inspirational for maybe a lot of people in the group. I certainly know one of my clients has been looking forward to seeing this. So before I waffle on for too long, I'm going to introduce you all to Sarah. Hi, Sarah, and welcome today. And I can see a couple of people are joining us live here already, so thanks for joining us, guys. So yeah, welcome, Sarah. Tell us about you. Tell us about your story, and when did you really first start to struggle, and what was it you were going through?
Thank you. I don't even know where to start with this. It's obviously a really long journey, but I would say that a lot of my mental health issues and challenges, like I love that we're doing this in the health group because like mental health and physical health are so connected. But back when I was diagnosed and when I was really in a struggle with this, doctors and psychiatrists treated mental health and physical health as two separate things. And if there was something wrong with you up here, you're a little bit like kooky up in the noggin. It was like, oh, well, you have a chemical imbalance and there's nothing we can do, which is just bananas. But a lot of it started when I was quite young. I want to say maybe around the age of 10, I started like taking antibiotics as a kid for frequent ear infections. And I was on antibiotics maybe like 4 months a year, like for the whole summer. And I was resistant to anything the doctors would prescribe me. And my parents didn't know any better. The doctors didn't know any better. Kid's got an earache. She's crying. She's in pain. They just kept giving me antibiotics. And like every year, then all these other health symptoms would be getting worse. I was eating and craving more junk food. My sleeping was getting worse. I was getting moodier and moodier. And then by the time I was 17, I had full blown chronic insomnia. Like I would sleep 7 hours in a week, not a night. Like I was absolutely bananas. I was completely bonkers. I was having huge mental, emotional breakdowns daily. Like daily, I would be crying, I'd be screaming, I'd be banging my head on concrete poles. Not because I wanted to hurt myself, but because I had such this intense buildup of all these emotions. Like if you're not sleeping, you can't regulate yourself. And I just had this intense buildup of anger and happiness and frustration and excitement and scared and everything. It was like I was feeling everything at once. And I would cry and I would scream and I would punch walls and I would bang my head on things and I would have these breakdowns daily. And it wasn't like I was just before 18 when I saw the shrink. I went to a doctor. I said, something's wrong with me. I'm feeling all these things and I'm thinking all these things. And I know that my feelings aren't necessarily justified. I feel hurt, I feel angry, I feel this, but there's no reason for me to feel that. I feel this and I feel that, but I don't know why. I don't understand what's going on. And he did a few basic questions and he goes, well, look, you can see a child psychologist or you can wait a few months and see an adult psychiatrist. And so I waited a few months and I went and saw an adult shrink, and essentially she's like, you've got bipolar, you've got this, you've got that, and the first thing they did was they put me on antipsychotics. And at the time I needed that because for the first time in many, many, many months I slept through the night.
Yeah.
This heavily sedative antipsychotics, and I wasn't on a low dose. I was taking fast releasing, slow releasing, I was taking antidepressants, and then at one point I was taking any migraine medication as well. So I was getting migraines daily that were worsened from the antipsychotics, but I needed the antipsychotics to sleep, and then the antipsychotics gave me food cravings and I ate way more junk food than normal. And so it was like one thing was making another thing worse and another thing worse. And at one point I remember like my anxiety was so bad. I didn't call it anxiety back then. I didn't know what anxiety was, but there was so much going on up in my head that I couldn't speak. I spent like 2 weeks straight in bed, and my best friends would come and sit on the bed and I couldn't talk to them. I would get up and go to TAFE and I would sit next to my friend, but I wouldn't talk to him. And we'd walk and I'd just walk next to them and we'd just be walking. And another friend would come up from school and say hi and go, what's wrong with her? Does she not like me? And he's like, no, she's just like that. Like I just couldn't speak. No words came out. And they asked me one day, they go, do you want a cheeseburger from McDonald's? And I literally banged my head on a concrete pole and ran away.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So do you remember what was going through your mind as that happened? Like, what was it? Do you remember what made you do that instead of replying?
I, I don't like it. Like that's why I said I didn't even call it anxiety, because it was like there was so much going on that there was nothing going on, that it was so intense and I couldn't. I don't know, I was completely broken. Like, I was sleeping next to nothing. And then once I was on the antipsychotics, I was very, very drugged up. And the only time that I ever felt normal after that point was then when I started using illegal drugs. So I would smoke meth or ice, or my ex was a dealer. And so the only time I felt normal was when I was on those drugs, or then I'd be drugged up on other drugs just to sleep. And I just went in this like cycle for years of trying to get better, trying to heal it, but the doctors were like, there's nothing you can do, this is just a chemical imbalance and you should get a disability pension. And I just, for years, felt like I was just running from this, trying to get better. And every time I would feel better for a little bit, I would be so scared that I was going to go back there. And a lot of the time I would always go back and I would fall back into it, and it might be better for a few days and then back, maybe better for a few weeks and then back. And it was just, I don't know, it was just this intense feelings. Like I would have massive highs, massive lows, and then days where I just had all these feelings, felt like they were exploding out of me at once. And I felt like I was physically in pain. Like I just was unable to regulate, and everything just felt so heightened that it felt physically painful.
Wow,
I don't
that's
know.
amazing. Were you working at that point? When you were sort of young adult?
I went through about 30 jobs in maybe 3 years. So I was really good at getting jobs. I never wanted, like I was always driven. I always wanted more for myself, but I got kicked out of school for reckless behavior and not going and truancy. So I was kicked out in year 11, and straight away I went and enrolled in TAFE because I knew my dad was going to kick my ass. And so the same day I enrolled in TAFE, and I ended up dropping out of TAFE. I tried to do it in the condensed. You can do it in 1 year instead of 2 years. So I tried to do it in 1 year, and it was too much. I wasn't sleeping. I was working at Subway, and I was trying to do this, and so I ended up dropping out. And then I tried to enroll a third time, and this time I'm like, I'll do it over 2 years. And that time I made it to the end of the first year to take the exams, and I had booked surgery in Thailand to get breast implants,
Oh,
and I accidentally booked it at the same time as my exams, and so I chose the breast implants.
oh my goodness. Yeah.
Like I got a job in sales. I got a lot of jobs, but I would get moody. I wouldn't be able to go to work. I would have breakdowns on the street. Like I was doing door-to-door sales at one point, so I would, like 3 o'clock, I'd have a killer migraine, couldn't think, couldn't speak. I'd be having a breakdown on the middle of the road. And so I was in and out of jobs like like no tomorrow. I just couldn't hold one down to save my life. I would be crying in the office. One of my old bosses, bless them, like they have no idea the impact that they made on me. I was selling timeshare and I went to work one day and I'm like crying in the back office, crying and shaking and crying and shaking. And I have to like prep myself up to go sell. And I'd switch my state, I'd change the way I'm thinking, change the way I'm feeling for long enough to go and sell a $20,000 product and then continue my breakdown afterwards. Yeah, one day to this job and I'd ran out of antidepressants and I didn't have $40 to refill the script. And so I was having severe withdrawals. And I went in there and my boss was like, you look like a junkie. Here's some money. Go and get your prescription and go home.
Wow.
And to this day, like that still is just like the kindest thing that anyone's ever done to me. They didn't judge me. They didn't fire me. They saw talent in me. I was really good at selling. I was really good with people and I was so positive and that was contagious, but I was broken. And they just gave me money, said, go fill your script and go home because I was like shaking and sweating and white and pale face, like full on withdrawals.
Yeah. Wow. So that's like really intense. I can't imagine like going through something like that for years, like absolute years, and feeling like there is no end in sight. So what changed for you, and at what point did things start to change for you, or when you decided to take a different approach? Like what was it that really had you turning a corner?
I can tell you now, looking back, the exact things that made the biggest impact. And if anyone asks me the number one thing, it's a gluten-free diet.
Yeah.
A gluten-free diet, right? Because if something is wrong up here, all your neurotransmitters, they're created in your gut. 70% of your serotonin is created in your gut. And so if your neurotransmitters and all the proteins and things that convert into those aren't working properly, it's not starting here. It's starting. So there was, damage with the gut, all the antibiotics and stuff that I took as a kid. And so that was the number one thing. To this day, if anyone says that they're struggling with their mental health, I'm like, go on a fucking gluten-free diet. I just broke up with my ex and he's having panic attacks and anxiety. And I said, go on a gluten-free diet. Like, I know that you think it's not related. And I know that you think that this anxiety that you're having is because of our life circumstances right now. But I'm telling you that your feelings and your emotions and all of that are significantly heightened. And if you go on a gluten-free diet, it's going to make it better. So that's the number one thing that helped me. But in terms of was there a turning point, like there really wasn't, because back then they treated mental health and physical health separately. No doctor told me to assess diet. No doctor said this. And so I was always trying to lose weight and always trying to be healthier, because as soon as I went on the meds, I gained weight. And so I would bounce back and forth between different diets and things. And I would test out the gluten-free diet and I kind of thought, oh, maybe, but then you don't commit to it properly. You don't commit to it long enough and you go back and forth. And I went and did a celiac test and the doctor said, no, I don't have it and it's fine. And so there was a lot of back and forth where I get a little bit better and then go back and get a little bit better and then go back. And then ironically, it was actually like around about the time that I went vegan and I went on a whole food plant-based diet, but I went completely gluten-free, started taking gut supplements at the same time. And at the same time, I started rock climbing. And so I found a hobby that kept me active and made me want to be fit and healthy. And I also stopped eating processed food and stopped eating gluten. And I started feeling better and better and better. And it got to a point where it had really been like a while since I'd had a breakdown and things had gone bad. And then I had an accident. And I fucked my shoulder up and I couldn't lift my arm for about a year. And when I had that accident, I was like gutted that I thought everything I just worked so hard for is now going to be taken away and I'm not going to be able to climb again. I can't lift my arm. And so what did I do? I started eating.
Oh, yeah.
And
emotional eating.
the sugar and the gluten. And this was the very first time that I'd been off gluten long enough to then the second that I ate it, I saw the impact that it had on me. And I tested this a few times over the year, went a few months without eating it, and then I would eat it. And I can like dial it down to a science. So the first day you eat it, like first day if I eat like heavy amounts of bread and wheat, say a sandwich and a piece of cake and then something else, right? Like a good amount of it, I'm going to feel lethargic and tired, and I'll get really tired to the point that I feel like I need to nap. The second day that I eat it, I'm starting to feel kind of moody. The
Yeah.
third, fifth day that I eat it, I'm feeling emotional. By the end of a week of eating gluten, I'm starting fights with people for no reason.
Okay, wow. That's such a strong connection, isn't it? Like actually being able to see the change or feel the changes that are actually happening in real time, and yeah, have that certainty that there is something that your body doesn't like about gluten. Wow.
And it's a really hard thing to put together because I never stayed off it long enough, and I always went back and forth and little bits here and there, and so I never. And it's not the only thing that contributed to my healing. Like the reason my body doesn't respond so negatively, I personally believe that nobody should eat gluten, but I think the reason that my body responds severely to it is because the gut was damaged, right? And the more your gut lining is damaged, the more those proteins get into the bloodstream, and the more those proteins get into the bloodstream, the more that they're affecting you up here emotionally and physically and neurologically as well. And so the severity of your gut damage is going to affect or be, a key indicator of the severity of the gluten symptoms that someone has. So it's obviously not the only thing that I attribute my healing to, because being healthy, healing the gut, also learning to regulate your emotions and regulate stress and all these other things. But if you ask me just to name one thing, I would say that's the biggest.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Like we know now that there's so much that goes into mental health that really does start in the gut, and what you experienced with things like antibiotics in your early childhood, that would have been absolute gut damaging, because the antibiotics just kill gut bacteria willy nilly, and so it's really giving you no hope whatsoever. And what we do see now is, there's a lot of people experiencing a lot of health problems, a lot of weight gain, a lot of mental health problems if they have been, you know, diagnosed antibiotics a lot as kids. So, and then yeah, the other thing is, if that caused you to, eat a shitty diet and, like emotionally eat and all that sort of stuff, we also know that that's also incredibly inflammatory to the gut, which is going to be exacerbating things even more. So yeah, healing that gut environment, and certainly eating, lots of whole plants, lots of fiber, for you, if it meant, needing to get rid of the gluten as well, if that was exacerbating the issues for you, for sure. I know there were a few other strategies that you took. I know there was like B12 and things like that, sort of supplement wise, that you took to help. So what were they for you?
So there's a few supplements that have been really, really helpful for me. I have a MTHFR gene defect. Apparently, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but apparently like 50% of Western population have this. And it just means that your body, in short, simple terms, your body doesn't convert B vitamins super well. And so again, it can have varying degrees to the defect. But if your body's not doing this, it affects a number of different pathways and things happening well in your body. One is focus, mental clarity, energy, sleep, also detoxing. And so your body's ability to detox. And so if your body can't detox properly, which means then you're getting more inflammation in the body, your body can't sleep properly, you can't focus properly. And so a lot of people who have this gene defect have actually been connected to mood disorders. And so just taking like an active B12, it's an active iron B12 that I take. It's prescription, but you can buy them non-prescription as well. Take it for a week and see how you feel. All I did was literally start taking it, and I saw the difference. Like the naturopath gave it to me. She goes, "Look, I can do a test to see if you need this, but it's $40 for a bottle. Just take it for a month and see how you feel."
Mm.
And I felt way better. Also, my period pain got better, and they got less intense there. I focused better, my energy was better, and I was clearer headed. And so that was really helpful. Thing that I found really helpful for my sleep. So sleep is a really tricky one because there's so many things
Mm-hmm.
that can be with your sleep, and it's so hard. And I think different things at different stages of your health journey as well, because it's like our health is not linear. You don't just have it or you don't have it. Things can't, you get sick or this or that, right? And it goes up and down. Something for me with all of the gut damage that I have, something that I developed was like an intolerance to histamines, and it just means that my body doesn't process histamines very well, which also are naturally in food, also created in the body from certain foods as well, and a lot of healthy foods and a lot of good foods. So it's not like we don't want them, but an excess buildup in histamines causes so many random problems. I had pain in my bladder, which I was feeling during sex. I thought I was having a gynecological problem. Wasn't. It was just a buildup of histamines in the bladder. Frequent urination, restless legs. If you feel restless and tingly, restless legs, anxiety. Really bad anxiety comes from a buildup of histamines and insomnia. And so one of the biggest things that's been really helpful with my sleep, which then is going to play into you being able to regulate your emotions and your mood, and then heal your gut, and then less inflammation in the body, all of that, right? Was actually just taking a supplement to help with histamines. And you can take a DAO supplement, which is a enzyme, I think, that helps you process them. But what I found works better is a quercetin supplement, which is an antioxidant. It comes from like the plant, like plant leaves and stuff. It's an antioxidant and it naturally blocks the production of histamines.
Okay.
And so you can take the enzyme to process it and the antioxidant, but that antioxidant is also really powerful for detoxing as well. So it helps your body detox free radicals. And so it's good for, like, anti-aging and cancer and that kind of stuff. So you detox the free radicals, blocks the histamine production. And that has helped me sleep better than anything. Like, for the first time in my life, I came off the antipsychotics when I was 28.
Yep.
And I reckon before I started getting some decent sleep, I was sleeping more than what I used to before I went on them, but I was still sleeping really shit for that year. And it was hard. It was really hard, and not going. I just like, I'm not going back on them. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to cure this. And then I got two supplements. One was a gut supplement, and the other one was a quercetin supplement. And started sleeping. And I see now, for women, so this might not be as relevant to men, but for women, when you get your period, before your period, estrogen levels go up, it actually causes an increase in histamine. So a lot of women struggle to sleep and get anxiety and stuff before their period, increase it. And this is something that is very hard to find this information online, because I had to link together so many random bits of information and then Google sentences that you wouldn't think to Google. Like, you just wouldn't think to Google connection between estrogen and histamines. Like, who's going to think to Google that, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
not
yeah,
something I've ever heard myself as well. So that's really interesting.
and I noticed because I would go through. I started sleeping again. I got this supplement, and I started being healthy, and my sleep started getting good. But it would, once a month, it would always get really shitty for a week, right? And it's always before I got my period. And now I got to a point where I also learned what the histamines were, and I wasn't sleeping for my period. And I said to Tim one day, I said, I feel like I'm getting histamine symptoms, but I haven't been eating any bad foods or anything. I'm being healthy. And he goes, aren't you about to get your period? Don't you not sleep before your period? And then I was like, Google estrogen, histamines, period, blah. And I was like, okay, wow. And so maybe not super relevant for guys as much. And histamine still would be, but the period part, maybe not. Maybe not, probably not. But that was really, really helpful for me with sleep. And I guess, again, it's a unique thing because you may not have that issue in your gut. But if you do,
Yeah.
you're causing a lot of problems that you don't realize, because most people just think it's like itchy skin or allergies or something.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, histamine intolerance comes a little bit from gut damage as well. It's like there is something that gets into the bloodstream again, and your immune system doesn't know how to respond. So it's sort of like attacking different parts of the body. So yeah, that's fascinating. I hadn't actually heard any of that connection before with period or estrogen levels and things like that. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. So it sounds like you've like I'm curious about what it was that made you want to find a different solution, or was it just that you suddenly found something and it helped you feel better straight away? So you started more down that track of trying to
You,
find all these natural things.
oh, you mean the whole like healing journey from the beginning? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I,
Because I mean, it can be very easy, not easy, but I mean, when you are when you're in a state of being really low, it can be hard to sort of look up and think that there might be a different possibility for you. um, because you just think that that's the way it is. So what was it that sort of had you realize that that's not the way it needs to be?
So this, I don't know if this is a nature versus nurture thing, an information thing, or whatever, because you're right. Like if everything's like stacked against you, and then you've got doctors telling you there's no hope, right? And you've got everyone telling you that you're not going to get better, and blah blah blah. It's like very hard to think and believe otherwise, because these professional, you put all your faith over here. I 100% never accepted it. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's innately who I am as a human being, and I'm just stubborn as fuck. And in my head, like part of me knew that if I haven't always been fucked up, then why can't I go back to feeling good? I think part of me knew, even though I was quite damaged, excuse my French, sorry guys, even though I was quite damaged and broken from a young age, I wasn't always like that. So part of me was just like, it can't be like that. Just can't be the truth. That can't be the reality. And part of it also as well, like when I first went on, like I wasn't an idiot. I knew that there was no reason for me feeling the way I was feeling. But when I first started going to psychologists and psychiatrists, the first one was trying to tell me that I'd been abused or raped or had trauma, and that was causing my mental health problems. And so I straight up knew that that wasn't the fucking case. Like no matter how much they were trying to get me to, give them some repressed memories that didn't exist, because as professionals are trained to look for what they know, right? Same with an injury or a surgery. You go and see a surgeon, he's going to prescribe a surgery. Like that's just
Exactly.
how it is.
Britain's Cup, that's what they do. Doctors give meds, and psychs want to know that there's been trauma. That's what they look for. Mm.
That's how they go. And so I knew when I saw that one, I was like, well, that's just stupid. I was like, that's dumb. That's wrong. That's not the case. And I went on to the next one, and she gave me the drugs, and I needed them. I absolutely needed them. I wasn't sleeping. But I didn't stop looking. I was pouring through medical journals and research and science, and it was hard to find back then, because all the information on, just if you just stuck to YouTube or didn't go through the science and medical journals and stuff, and that's very recent now. You can Google the science between gut health and mental health, and bipolar and depression, and all this. There's studies. There's so much. There wasn't that much of it back then. When you try to Google bipolar or borderline personality disorder, which is even more rare again than bipolar, all you got was the symptoms. All you got was these sad videos of how much these people are struggling. And okay, cool. It was helpful to go, all right, this is me. I'm in a box with someone, but it wasn't really helpful in terms of how do I put a game plan in place to heal. But I don't know, I never really accepted it. And not once. Like I didn't get the disability pension. I kept trying to better myself in different ways, and it was very back and forth. Like I never really found things very quickly and thought that's helpful, and I didn't have any doctors to say yes, that keep going down that path. And I think this is where we struggle, and this is not just with healing, with weight loss, with business, with any long-term goals that we're working towards. Like the value in having coaches and mentors is that they're there to go, yes, keep going down that path.
Yeah.
Because what happens is we tend to, and we revert back, right? We give up. We go, oh, it's not working. We return. And so I did a lot of that because it was just me. I didn't have anyone helping me, and so it was just so much back and forth. But I can't say what made me want to be better. Like I never really fully accepted that that was my reality ever.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like you, despite what you were going through, you still had this desire and this kind of like innate knowing that that wasn't your truth and that wasn't who you were meant to be. Did you have anyone in your life who was like someone who had that way of thinking, like there is more, this doesn't have to be your fate, or whatever it was, someone who helped you just continually look forward instead of accepting what was or looking to the past?
So not exactly, but I guess like we're coming to nature and nurture, right? Like what was in my environment, and who was supporting me, and what voices were in my head. And so my parents aren't very well educated, especially with all this kind of stuff, that they don't understand anything about it. And they're very much like, oh, what the doctor said. And they're very set in their ways when it comes to you. kind of like everyone around me and in my family we grew up in a low socioeconomic area, and none of them went to university. None of them were very well educated. My dad, I had fights with him when I started my business because he told me it takes money to make money. So he didn't believe that I could go and create something from nothing. And so if the doctor said that you're broken, that's just like, they're not really the sort of people to challenge that or to question that. But something that I got from my mum, and I don't know if this is what has helped me all the way to this point with so many things in my life, but from a very young age. And I feel bad because my sister didn't get it. My sister we both obviously had problems because I was there with those problems, but my sister had problems earlier. She had learning disabilities and challenges and dyslexia and stuff. And so they always looked at her as the learningly challenged child. And they looked at me as the bright, sparkly future. And she was so smart. And before all the mental health stuff kicked in, right, I was a very smart little kid. And so from a very young age, my mum always told me, you can do anything you want. You can have anything you want. And I got that message repeatedly every fucking day for my entire life from her, even if she didn't believe, like, and even if she has all these limitations on herself, and she wasn't very well educated and all of that, and I don't know how much of it played into me not accepting what I was told, but I did always get that message, which was you can do anything you want. And so I am grateful for that. How much it affected me, I don't know.
Yeah, that I reckon that was probably something that stayed with you. Because I mean, why else would you have this belief that your reality can be so much different than it actually was when everybody else around you was just accepting that that's what was.
Oh,
That's
wow.
amazing. And yeah, you're in a completely different situation right now, in terms of where you are health wise and where you are in terms of your business, and what it is that you do. Because, guys, I don't know if you weren't here at the beginning, I said that Sarah Ann was my business coach, and she's been, I guess, a mentor of mine for some time in my coaching journey. And yeah, she's doing incredible things in this coaching space now. And clearly has a head on her shoulders that is not affected by all this mental health issues anymore. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, and I guess how different that is to where you were previously.
Well, I've always worked in sales. So my first sales role was 18, and I was to get the breast implants. So I had booked and paid for part of it, but I'd spent part of the money that I got a loan for. Wasn't very good with finances or anything. I went bankrupt at 21, and so I got a loan to get breast implants, booked this trip to Thailand, and then spent part of the money. And so I got a sales job, and the sales job said, because I didn't have any experience and I hadn't finished school because I kept dropping out repeatedly. And the role said, no experience needed, commissions, dollar signs, dollar signs. This was the ad, guys, dollar signs, commissions, no experience needed. I'm like, that's me, I'm doing it. And so I started working in sales when I was 18 in door-to-door sales, and I wasn't naturally good at it. I ran away from the first door I knocked on, actually ran down the street, and I watched the guy come out of his house, and I was like, yeah, no. And I ran off, but I really wanted to make it work because I needed my boobies. I needed these fake. So they cost me a whole lot more money to get them taken out 10 years later. But anyway, so I got this job and I started working in sales, and I was at the time obsessed with trying to figure out what was wrong with my mental health. And so I'm just like researching all this stuff about psychology and people and all this stuff. And I was also obsessed with trying to make money to make sales. And the two of them are very closely intertwined, because the more you understand yourself and how you think and how you feel and how you're triggered, the better you understand other people. And the better you understand other people, the better you can connect, communicate, and sell. And so I just ended up going down this journey. It's the only consistent in my entire life, is that from the age of 18, so it's now been 12 years, I've been nonstop in sales. And so I went through a lot of jobs because I couldn't keep jobs, but I was always really good at them. I was always top performer. I always ended up training, and then ended up creating training programs and systems for some really large companies in corporate. MetLife, which is the world's largest insurance company, and Bayer, which is the world's largest pharmaceutical company. So I created programs and systems for them. And then I started this business initially as sales training, and then that kind of pivoted into like sales and marketing and lead gen. And I mean, now it's business coaching. I still identify more as a sales trainer than a coach. I think that's just where my heart is at, and I love training and I love teaching. But essentially, we help coaches build to six figures, and that's where we are now. And
Yeah,
that's how you and I met.
I know,
I
right? And
stole
yeah. Sorry, say that again. You just cut out.
sold you into our old mentors program
Yes,
before
that's
you were.
right. Yeah. I was going to sign up with Richmond Inn, and Sarah took the call for Richmond, and yeah, we ended up meeting up in person, and then went to the workshop, and then I started following Sarah's free trainings. So if there's any coaches in the group here watching, guys, and if you're not following Sarah, go and watch Sarah's trainings at least. Yeah, your free trainings just helped me really get going. So I thought, well, this girl must be the one who's going to be able to help me get to next level, and she certainly did. So I thank you for everything that you helped me with and still help me with today. So, but yeah, I was just inspired by your journey, just seeing like where you had come from versus where you are now, and like just had absolutely no idea that from this level-headed sensible person that I was following on Facebook, who just all had these very logical systems and processes that I could adopt, and knowing, and then suddenly learning that she came from this very, very, I guess emotionally disrupted, past. It just had me thinking, what else? We get so caught up in our mindset of when we're struggling that this is it and this is all there is, whether that's mental health, whether that's physical health, and just having this belief that having the belief that this is not all there is, that there is a possibility of healing. That in itself, you didn't even have any real mentors in your life guiding you. It was just having that solid belief that this is not my end, this is not my story. That got you to healing things within you. So if anyone else here is suffering with something similar, whether it's mental health or physical health, knowing that this doesn't have to be your story, that part of your story is actually the healing journey itself. And think of an amazing story that you might be able to tell, as Sarah Ann has today, just simply by holding that belief instead of the belief that this whatever you're struggling with at the moment, that's all there is. So thank you, Sarah. And just to finish off, I know you've got a sales call very soon. What might be a last piece of advice you might also give others who might be suffering either with something similar, mental health, or just in a position of suffering in some way at the moment? What sort of advice would you give them?
Ask that, because I was sitting here going, I have one more thing I want to say. And so I think yes, okay, I always had this two things I want to share if I can remember them both. So actually, funnily enough, I still struggle with having mind blanks. When I took the medication for the migraines, that medication really did a number on my my memory recall and on my ability to think quick and on my feet. I lost a real witty, fast moving part of myself when I took that medication. And so sometimes I'll be mid conversation and I just have complete mind blanks, and it's there, but it's not there. But anyway, I digress. So the two things that I wanted to say, one is that obviously, I had this innate belief that I could just create something else. And I think that that's really key. From the beginning, I was always like, yes, I can make, and I didn't know how, I didn't know where, I didn't know what. I just was, no, I can't accept this. But despite having that, I think part of going on this long journey, any kind of journey or transformation that you're trying to create, it's a work in progress in changing the self-talk. I still had days, and I don't now, but I had days where I spoke to myself like shit, and I called myself a dumb piece of shit, and a this and a that, and I spoke really harshly to myself, even though part of me didn't believe it, but part of me did, and I would berate myself and beat myself up for failing and this and that, and just like know that if you're in that headspace and you're talking to yourself like that now, that doesn't have to be reality, but it's not going to flip the switch overnight. I had to continuously practice, and it's really important. Like, your self-talk is everything, but I had to keep practicing it, and I would pull myself up when I was spinning a shitty story, and I would pull myself up when I was saying terrible things to myself, and I say, no, I'm going to spin that story, no, I'm going to believe that, no, I'm going to talk to myself kindly now, right? And I'm going to be very loving to myself now. And that was just practice over time and time and time. So that was
We get
one
very
thing that
good
I
at what
wanted
we
to.
practice. We get very good at what we practice, and so if you've been practicing speaking to yourself like an asshole, that's what you're going to be very good at. So you've actually got to practice the opposite if that's what you want. Yeah, love that. Love it. Carry on.
So that was one thing I wanted to say, was just that you 100% are not going to just flip that switch because you saw one interview or you saw this, whatever. It's practice. And the other thing, something that was incredibly helpful to me on my healing journey, and it has stuck with, like, there's a few key things that have stuck with me to today, but one of them was something that I learned from Tony Robbins, and it was that you can change your state in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of times that I had to do this, so I've gone to work in a call center for an entire week without sleep and made more sales than anyone else. And in that week, I was crying at my desk, I was crying on the balcony, people wouldn't want to look at me, and I still made more sales than anyone else because I knew how to, in that moment. Now, when you're struggling and you're dealing with these mental health issues, okay, cool. Changing the way you feel for an hour is not going to change the entire situation. You're going to fall back, like you're going to go back there, but you can't just stop life whilst you're healing as well. Like, you need to be able to move forward. And so if you really want to change the way that you're feeling in any given moment, you can. And that's a skill that you can practice as well. A lot of the time we want to sit in the hurt, and we want to sit in the pain, and we want to have the tantrum, we want to this and we want to that. And so we don't force ourselves to shift our state. But this was like one of the most powerful things I learned, was that you can shift your state at any time. And I would go from crying in the back of the office to selling a $20,000 timeshare product. I would literally start jumping up and down on the spot and thinking about stuff until I felt silly, and I would start laughing. I would shift my state, and then I'd walk out there, I'd wipe the tears, I'm not joking, wipe the tears, and I go, hi, sorry, I just had a coughing fit, please excuse me, how are you going? And then I would sell a $20,000 product. And I know them probably aren't, like, necessarily working in that kind of environment where you fucking need to put all your mental and physical, emotional energy into another human being in front of yourself, and you're going to leave your bullshit at the door. And people hated that saying in sales, leave your bullshit at the door. Yeah. The truth is that you do need to leave bullshit at the door. If you're working with clients, I can't bring my bullshit to the table with my clients. Like, I'm here to serve them at that time. And so that lesson and learning that I can change my state in a heartbeat, in any situation, if I want to, any freaking time I want to, was one of the most powerful lessons.
But do you do it just by changing your physiology? So I know that changing your state is your physiology, your thoughts, what you're focused on, and your language, how you're speaking. So do you use all three, or do you just literally jump up and down on the spot and change your physical state?
All three, but now it's almost like it's so instantaneous now that I almost don't even need to go through a process or anything. Like, now I'm like, if I want to be in a good mood, I just smile and I'm immediately in a good. Now I'm just like, yeah. But I think
about. Yeah.
I think for me, definitely the most powerful one was physiology. But with that example that I gave you, jumping up and down, I was also looking at photos of things that I wanted to achieve in life, and I was thinking, so I was using all three. I was jumping up and down, I was thinking different things, I was looking at stuff, so I was doing a whole bunch of stuff, and it was a whole fucking routine because I was on the ground having a breakdown 2 minutes before. It was a huge routine to shift my state. It was really hard. Obviously now I'm not in that emotional state that I used to be, so now to shift my state, I do that, I feel great. I just want to laugh when I just did that a little bit. I just feel a little smile and I feel great. It's a bit more effort, but I still, to this day, I still feel physiology, moving my body, is the fastest way to change my state, and I feel like it's the longest lasting one.
Yeah, you're actually producing serotonin when you're actually moving your body, which is, your happy hormones. So that is an incredible way to shift things really, really fast too. I'm going to do that very soon and go out for a walk, go and get some serotonin for my day so I can feel happy too. That's incredible. I love it. Yeah, such a powerful story. Was there anything else that you could think of, just to finish off, seeing you had your last 2 points? No,
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, I don't know if there's comments or anything, if anyone.
Oh, there's loads of people watching. I see Sandy's watching, Liam's been watching. Thanks, Liam. Thanks for tuning in, and several other people have been watching as well. Yeah, Christine says her daughter is bipolar, so yeah, I really hope this helps, Christine. So yeah, it's about gut health. It's about, I mean, sleep is so important for mental health. So if you're struggling with sleep, it's really important to find, a strategy that's going to help you get a decent night's sleep. A lack of sleep actually changes your microbiome, and increases inflammation in the body, which is not helpful for mental or physical health. It's about doing the mindset work. It's about having a belief that you can. It's about shifting how you speak to yourself. Speaking to yourself like an asshole is not going to help. And you're not going to just simply change who you are and how you treat yourself overnight. It's a continual practice, and learning how to change your state. Changing the physical energy in your body is going to help you change where your mind is at as well. So some really powerful strategies there. A lot of those strategies, funnily enough, is what I work with a lot of my clients as well. It's definitely all about food. It's about health. It's about sleep. It's about mental focus and energy physically as well. So yeah, it's wonderful to see that that's had an incredible impact on you, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and I really hope that those who've been watching have got a lot out of that. This has probably been one of our more busy lives ever. So thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we'll sign off from now. Give Sarah Ann some love, and I'll be sending this out by email very shortly too. All right, ciao for now.